everyone, and welcome to another edition of Thought Leaders Live, where we talk with thought leaders in business, life, and all points in between. Very excited to be joined today by Gabe Larsen of Signals. This is going to be a bit of a mind blowing episode, I do believe. Gabe's at the forefront of the autonomous organization movement. Very simple belief: cloud employees aren't tools, they're coworkers. And we're going to be talking today about how AI cloud employees are rebuilding the way companies grow. Gabe, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, man, this is fun. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. This topic it's getting interesting, Greg. This is warming up. It's fun.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I stumbled upon Gabe and his partner at Signals, and I went to the website, and I
We had
just
a
was
fun
kind of,
conversation. Yeah, that was
yeah,
a fun. We were kind of jamming on things before. That was fun. I remember that.
yeah. And I went to the site, and I was really just could not believe this AI employee, cloud employees, and got on a call with Gabe, and we started to talk about what you guys are doing at Signals. So Gabe, can you give us a little bit of background, just briefly about yourself and your journey to Signals, and then what exactly Signals is doing?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So, I've been in the. I'm getting older. Been in the space for a little while, but an interesting background. I started originally in consulting. Did an international stint for about 5 years in the Middle East. I was a banker in New York for a couple of years as well, and jumped into SaaS maybe 15 years ago, and I've had two really fun runs. I joined a sales automation technology company called InsideSales.com and raised about 400 million, and did some really cool things in kind of the inside sales space. And then most recently was with a company out of New York called Kustomer. That's customer with a K. Kind of a ticketing and help desk solution. Trying to modernize it for modern brands who really cared about customer care, and was lucky enough to be purchased by Meta for it was their fourth largest transaction: Oculus, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Customer. And
Wow.
spent 2 years at Meta doing who the heck knows what, and then they kicked us out as they kind of were refocusing the company on this AI journey that, boy, they are fighting, to be part of and be on top of. And so they spun us back out, and I really wanted to get into this AI space, and so I called a good friend of mine and said, "Hey, are you playing with this stuff? It's crazy, right?" And he said, "I beat you to it. I'm thinking about starting a company and seeing if we can go kind of take AI to the market in the form of Signals." And so I've kind of joined Dave Elkington, and that brings us to the current moment. So, anyways, that's just a little bit about me. Happy to jump into kind of the quick what is Signals and what's going on.
Yeah, let's hear about it. Tell us about Signals.
Cool. So yeah, I mean, there's a big movement. I think the economy, I think, Greg, right now is struggling, and AI is in some ways propping it up. That's maybe a conversation for another time. But we talk to so many companies saying, "Hey, we got to do more with less. We still need to grow, but we have to do it in a different way." That traditional organization for so long was add people, add tools, add people, add tools, and you'd get up to 4 or 5, 6, and thousands of people. That just won't cut it anymore, right? And so people are saying, I need a new type of organization. The traditional hasn't worked. What's that modern organization look like? Some of the big boys have come out and said, I watched the keynote from Benioff. He said, you're seeing something called an agentic organization emerge. There was a Microsoft report that came out. They called it the frontier firm. We've kind of adopted this idea of the autonomous organization. And you alluded to it when we started, but it is a do more with less type of environment where you still have employees. I'm not advocating for a place of no employees, but the balance will be shifting. In the traditional, you had 400 employees and zero cloud employees or autonomous personas that were performing jobs. In the new organization, it's got to be a better balance. We don't know exactly what that looks like, but let's say it's 200 and 200 employees versus cloud employees. And you're starting to see a lot of boards, VCs and PE, talk to their portcos about this idea of an ECE ratio, which is what is the ratio of employee versus cloud employees in your organization? Because again, that traditional thing won't work anymore. We have to go to this kind of more modern autonomous organization. And so as we saw that shift and continue to see that shift, there's going to be a fundamental building block of that new organization. And we firmly believe that will be a cloud employee. So that's high level. I could kind of dive into what a cloud employee is, but comments on that or questions?
Yeah. So I want to get back. I want to talk for just a second about that efficiency measure and doing more with less.
Yeah.
And the idea that, it always feels like to me with technology, everybody's afraid technology is going to either take away work or it's going to make you so fast, it will take care of all this stuff and you'll be less busy. But it seems like it always results everybody's just as busy or even busier. But in this case, I think what you're kind of talking about when you say that employees wouldn't necessarily be replaced. So maybe are you talking about like you're going to keep the same number of employees, but you're going to add in a ton of AI employees, which will increase productivity? Is that one way to think about it?
Yeah, look, I mean, you're pretty close. I would say
Okay.
so many people, when they talked about scaling, they would use the word headcount.
Yeah.
And now people are saying we're going to scale output. It's a funky thing to kind of wrap your head around, but no, we will not see, and I'm going to use the word startup, but you won't see a startup environment, I think, in the future with a Series B of 200 employees or 150 employees, right? So you have to bring the number of employees down. But there's still going to be some. So now we have 50 or 25 or 30, right? And now what you so and their core roles, and we can kind of get into where we're seeing some of the building blocks of this autonomous organization come together. But so you have these 30 kind of core individuals playing roles, and then you have 70 cloud employees. And they can be turned on fairly quickly. And now all of a sudden you're not talking about, and I've done it, and you've probably done it. Every year you kind of sit down and you're like, how do we scale? Add sales reps. How do we scale? Add engineers. How do we scale? It's always people, people,
Yeah.
people. It's going to be different. You're going to sit down at the end of the year and you're going to say, how do we scale output? How do we scale jobs? Well, let's turn on a cloud employee for that. Cool. And that conversation will slip. So again, now in that modern, you have maybe 50 employees and 150 cloud employees. And now you're talking about scaling jobs. Still there's people and you need them, but not to the level we've had. I just don't see it happening.
Interesting. So let's talk a little bit. Let's give me a specific example of what a Signals cloud employee is. And
Yeah.
like just give me one role because I think then we can get a real sense of what you're talking about with a cloud
Yeah,
employee.
yeah. So, I think it is. One of the things that's sometimes hard to understand is just, what is a cloud employee? And for us, that is, I've got a little definition here. I like to say it's an advanced AI agent that learns your business, integrates with your systems, and delivers results. A lot of people get confused with an AI agent and a cloud employee. So let me get to your example in 1 second. But it's helpful sometimes. An AI agent, which we're all familiar with, is often very deterministic by nature. It's a workflow, make.com, N8N. It's if this, then that, if this, then that. And it just kind of goes through. Our cloud employees are not deterministic. They're actually more autonomous. You give them different tools. They decide to use them or not to use them. That's a fairly big difference. The other thing is an AI agent is often task-based. It's very simple. Scrape a website, bring me back something. Our AI agents or cloud employees are job-based. That's hundreds of tasks rolled into one to create kind of a job. And then lastly, many AI agents are single channel, meaning a chatbot. Our cloud employees do operate across chat, email, phone, SMS, LinkedIn, Slack, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's sometimes just to get the picture. Got it. So it is an advanced or complex AI agent that is more autonomous by nature and job focused. So what we've gone to market with right now is about 25 agentic personas or cloud employees, or they're more these complex roles that they can kind of take on. And then people come to us and you hire one of these cloud employees across back office or go to market roles. One of the more popular ones, to get to kind of your question, is customer service. It's an easy entry point. In fact, we're seeing people are typically starting with more complex AI agents in 4 key roles: engineering, customer service, sales, development in particularly, and then recruitment. They have repetitive, high velocity roles. And so we're seeing a lot of people jump in there and then continue to add agentic personas in their organization. But the customer service one is interesting. So we had a big dental conglomerate come to us. They had about 400 offshore reps doing their tier one and tier two customer service. So think phone, chat, email, answering questions about the product, password resets, basic troubleshooting. We've now replaced almost all 400 with this cloud employee concept, doing phone, chat, and email support. And some of the interesting findings, one is it's about one-fifth the cost of an actual person. Um, the actual time to resolution, that was fascinating. It's almost 70% faster than a human counterpart. For
Wow.
some of these, again, I'm talking tier one and tier two. So immediate benefits in cost and ultimately resolution time, which was a little bit surprising. But that would be one example of a multi-channel cloud employee. Again, and you got to think, if this isn't just ChatGPT with the skin on it, it's not just a voice agent that answers basic conversations. These are running through what we call full agentic workflows. They may answer the phone or get a ticket, and they operate across channels. So they have memory. They have a long-term, short-term, and real-time memory. So if you chat with them and you call them, guess what? They remember. It's no swivel chair interface for people who are familiar with kind of the customer service interface or customer service experience. But anyways, they take that information, they create a ticket in your Zendesk environment. They resolve that ticket. They can escalate. They can live transfer. They send a survey after. So this isn't just kind of it's a little voice interface or something. No, this is the full ticketing kind of program from start to end. Sorry, a little long-winded, but that would be an example, Greg, of a cloud employee and running a job, not a task.
So there's two anecdotal things from our previous conversation where you kind of gave me the demo. Yeah, I think you called one of these agents and asked them some questions and things like that. And if you've anybody out there has experience with the voice interface on Chat GPT, for example, you
Yeah,
can have a very detailed conversation the AI there. The thing there was two things that really stood out to me. One, you're hiring, like, if you go to the Signals website, you'll see like hire Janice.
yeah,
She'll be
we personify them. That's right. So yeah, you hire Dex or Miles or Zoe. Correct. Mhm.
and you're not the thing is you're hiring one Janice. One Janice will handle all the phone calls. People will always get Janice. And the other thing, so you have this customer experience where you know this person and you're talking to them and you're familiar with them and they're with you through the whole journey. That's fascinating. Then the other thing that I think was amazing, what you told me, is somebody called you after the experience and said, that was the best customer experience I ever had. Janice knew
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah. So just a click on those is, yeah, this concept I think in SaaS that's really coming is, and be fun to even to dive a little deeper here, but yeah, you don't rent tools anymore. You hire AI teammates. You don't rent AI tools. You hire AI teammates. This is going to be a big shift, I think, in the mindset of the buyer in kind of what you and I have experienced in SaaS over the last little while. And so we're really big on personification. And so, yeah, you very humanistic type concepts. You hire them, you personify them with the name, you pay them a salary, you do weekly coaching sessions with them, you onboard them. And so, again, we're not saying they're human, and I don't want to pretend they are, but the experience needs to be closer to that than what we've had in the past, which is software as a service, right? This is now onboarding a teammate, software as a service, onboarding a team. So that is very much different. And I do believe that's the future, right? Hiring AI teammates is part of that autonomous organization that we work together or manage. For example, I have 4 cloud employees that report to me right now. I do a weekly coaching session with them and I review their numbers and look at their talk tracks and try to make them better, just as I would in regular SDR or regular customer service rep. So, anyways, that is that concept. And then, yeah, your piece on, I can't say it's happened hundreds and hundreds of times, but I think the one particular, it's a BI tool. We have a company that is using it's a public company kind of in the BI space, but long story short, they did kind of this customer service cloud employee, and they had their big conference going on, and we're trying to kind of navigate some of that stuff. And they had a call come in, and the person wanted to know about the conference, but they also wanted to understand some of the latest on the product. And they were a little confused about how this company was infusing AI, and they weren't quite sure how to use it. And they didn't know. And the questions kind of kept going in this conversation. This conversation turned into about an 8-minute conversation. And at the end, the person was like, wow, I mean, you just the depth and breadth of these cloud employees is so wide. Sometimes you find a junior rep, it's an SDR, it's in customer service, and you can't go very far. But this person was just coo, 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 when was the company founded and what's going on here? And I don't know, I mean, and the cloud employee nailed it. And he was just like, this was a super information. Better talking to you than talking to sometimes a junior rep. Thanks for your time. And again, it turned into about an 8-minute conversation that I think got further, not just answering a question about the event, but ultimately got into upselling AI, which is ultimately, I think, what this company's goal is. So
Let's take a step back now. We've introduced the AI employee. Um, a lot of people watching this now, the shit may be scared out of them a little bit when they hear about this, because I think it's a real concern for the workforce, and it's a real issue. And I think I really want to hear from you, Gabe, and what you guys are thinking the future of the workforce at large looks like.
yeah, yeah. Um, that's loaded. Maybe I'd start. Certainly, as we were saying, with that autonomous organization, uh, again, there is no, in my opinion, I'm not seeing anything in the near future where we're eliminating everybody in a company, right?
Right.
These agentic personas need to report to somebody. I have 4 of them. I'll probably have 6 here by the end of the month. Everybody in our company, I think, has at least 3 that report to them. So um, that does shift a little bit, though, the type of work that's being done and the skills that are needed, right? And so, do I need to be able to write a blog post? No, but I need to be able to coach my content cloud employee through my voice. And if you're just going to put AI slop out there and that's not what the world wants, or I don't think that's going to provide value. But if you go back and forth with that cloud employee and give them your thoughts or her thoughts, and you hone something and it gets your voice, and they ultimately go do the busy work of publishing it, great. That could be very valuable. So, um, AI engineering, like a prompt concept, being able to set these up. We're seeing a skill set. You're hearing a word like forward deploy engineer or prompt engineering. Can you actually program one of these? How do you manage? How do you set up and optimize one of them? There's a lot of roles emerging on that front. And so I do think certainly there's going to be roles that are eliminated. There's no doubt about it.
Sure.
Customer service, portions of SDRs. Again, everything in customer service, probably not. Tier 1, I think there's a good chance to kind of move those. Maybe not in every industry. If you're in high-end luxury, if you're selling jumbo jets to countries around the world, I don't know if AI has a role in customer service. I don't know if that's the case, right? That's a very high-end billion-dollar purchase.
Right.
Selling trinkets is an e-commerce retail, hundreds of thousands a month. Do you need to be staffing, hundreds and hundreds of people in BPOs? Maybe not. So there's going to be a change there as we kind of evolve in that workforce. So I think across the board, you're going to see changes, but I think a couple roles will be eliminated, but I see most of our roles changing as we then have these cloud employees report to us, and we get better at setting them up, optimizing them, and then managing them in a way that is as authentic human as we can be. Again, I don't love this idea of, and I love that word AI slop, where it is just ChatGPT, write a blog for me and I'm going to throw it on my social. That's not what I mean. How does it partner with you? How does it take your best practices? Like, one of the things we're seeing fascinating with the AI SDR cloud employee is that, again, it's an empty shell. But if you really know, we've got like one of these expert sales trainers. He spent now 100, almost, I think, 100 hours training and optimizing this inbound cloud employee with his best practices and strategies and things to do and when to do it and how to do it and how to qualify and words to say. Oh my goodness, that's an optimized machine, but it's become right. That's different than just saying AI SDR go do something.
Right.
That's really become an extension of him. So I like that concept where it turns you into kind of the captain of your region if you're a sales executive. It turns you as an SDR into an SDR manager because now every SDR will manage 2 or 3 cloud employees and they'll be, moving things around and kind of running it. So those would be a couple thoughts, but that's an interesting one.
When I hear you talk about this, I think about it just maybe in old school terms, in terms of we spend so much time talking about process.
Yeah.
We have to document our process. We have to improve our process. Where do things break down? They always break down because of poorly documented
Yeah.
processes. And when we sit and take the time to do it and then document it and we know it what it is, and then we can always adapt, improve, then we improve as a company, but that takes a lot of time. Like we have a couple hours, we try and put every Friday to get to it, yet it's super critical because we're all so busy doing the work we can't get to it. So
Sure.
I like what you're talking about. Maybe that we're spending more time on the process end, and then the work is being done and handled by these autonomous employees.
Yeah. Look, I think that again, I don't know if anybody knows the exact answer, but it feels like it's moving that direction. I think the people who are better or will be better off are trying to move in that direction, right? They're starting to become, hey, maybe I need to come to a chat GPT with an opinion. Again, I don't want to just say write everything for me, but I come with an opinion and it does some of the work. I give some feedback back and then it goes on and does some stuff. And I go on to I stay higher level. I stay in human judgment. I stay in creativity rather than button, post, you
Yeah.
know. So we'll see.
Yeah, this is great. Rob, thanks for joining us. Good to see you. Um, great comment here about we are using AI assistance for advantage and affordability. We've talked a lot about the advantages. Why don't you speak to the affordability and the pricing
Yeah.
on what you're doing?
Yeah, I think pricing with AI just in general is really messy at the moment because
Yeah,
we're also used to a seat-based model with renting tools that really never delivered the outcome you wanted. They just, supported you so that you could do the outcome. I always thought that was funny. You wanted pipeline, so you rented a tool like Outreach, but ultimately the person had to do it and they had to like create the pipeline. These cloud employees, I think, will be different. You can hire them and they'll hopefully just bring you pipeline, for example. With that said, the seat-based versus usage-based pricing model, it's still funky. So you've seen kind of a bunch of iterations. People are talking about outcome-based pricing. That really doesn't exist much right now, in my opinion. No offense to people who think they're doing it. It's really more usage, I think, is the word they probably should be doing. And that's cost per interaction. They're passing token costs on to their buyers. So they get charged per, look up into some LLM. And then they're like, why don't we put a margin on it? That would be the basic idea. But so, for example, you'd say, I'm a customer service vendor and we helped you resolve a ticket. So we're going to charge you $1 a ticket that's resolved, right? And again, you could call that an outcome, I guess, but I call it more like usage. So, anyways, a lot of people are going that direction. Um, I do think the challenge there is it's fairly confusing, or it's hard to put your hand around. It's like how many conversations or resoluted, tickets are we going to have each month? And it's like, well, I don't know. It's Black Friday this month. How are we going to? We might have 4,000. Well, that's very hard for a CFO to plan for maybes, for I
right.
don't knows, for spikes. All of a sudden, he gets a bill for 40,000. He's like, oh crap, that's
Yeah.
quadruples our budget. So there's just some challenges in there that I think we got to continue to work through. I've liked the positioning more of a salary. Again, think of the personification. So we've gone more to a salary-based concept. So you hire a cloud employee. It comes with 4 core characteristics: communication, knowledge, intelligence, and tools. And then you have different levels in that. So you have like a junior SDR, you have a senior SDR, and each of those cloud employees come with basically capacity that you would get, and I've run SDR teams. A more junior person usually does about this much, and a senior person does a little more output. So there does need to be limits, but we've tried to personify. I've liked that positioning a little bit more because we just understand it. We've always
Right.
hired junior and senior people, and they have different skills and abilities. Okay, cloud employees have that same thing. Okay, well, why don't we hire one? So, anyways, I think that's pretty interesting from a pricing standpoint. Yeah, I just say to the viewers, like I said, about 1/10 to 1/5 of the actual personnel costs. So, again, we're not really talking about tools budgets anymore. We're talking about personnel budgets, which is also a difference. For a while, this always was, you'd sell to the COO because this was a tool concept. All our conversations are with the people side of the house. HR is typically involved because they're hiring people. It's also a little bit of a change, but that's one just kind of rule of thumb. If you're hiring an agentic persona, if an SDR costs you 100,000, think of it about 10 to 20,000, about 1/10 to 1/5 the cost of that. So a fully loaded SDR, maybe 100,000, an agentic SDR doing about the same capacity should be in that 10 to 20K range.
Wow. Let's pivot a little bit to a topic you brought up earlier, before we even hopped on the call here, and I think you've touched on it a little bit, but maybe we can flesh it out even more. This whole idea of SaaS versus AI.
Yeah.
Maybe you can kind of get us a little more clarity on that.
Yeah, look, I think one of the things we're seeing, and we're seeing it in the market, a lot of SaaS companies' stock prices, I think, are taking a hit. And the reason is you're seeing almost a cannibalization of AI, eating SaaS. And the fundamental concept I kind of highlighted a little earlier, and we could double click on is this idea of tools versus teammates. And what I think's happening is, why would I rent a tool that records calls when I could have a teammate that before a call, I do a brainstorm with, during the call, it gives me live feedback. And after the call, it takes my information and throws it into CRM. And oh, by the way, sure, I have the call recording stored somewhere. But it becomes this really different experience. Why have, we could go through a variety, why
Sure.
have a tool that goes and monitors signals for me, or finds information and stores it in some CRM that is decrepit and I rarely use, when I could have a teammate that does the same thing, and I could have live conversations with him or her about what they found, how they would approach an account, what I should do next on an account. Wouldn't that be more beneficial? I'm slacking with this thing. You just went out and researched an account. What'd you find on that? Oh, they're doing a job change. You want to help me build an email sequence for that? That'd be super interesting. Like, why have a signals tool or an account researcher tool when I can have an account researcher buddy or teammate? And so I do think you're seeing kind of a cannibalization or a move from just tools to AI agents, or to kind of cloud employees. So I think that's happening. And the other thing is, back to that pricing, it does align so much more with what we want. I was indicating that before. In the past, you would buy a Zendesk because what you really wanted was more resolved tickets and higher satisfaction for your customers. That's why you bought a ticketing tool. What you got was a fancy way to like update the ticket. You had to have somebody, a person, go in there and
Mhm.
actually resolve the ticket and make the customer happy. So the promise of SaaS was never actually realized. It always just stopped halfway there. And AI is now going to that outcome. And people are saying, instead of software as a service, it's going to be outcome as a service. Why? Because I'm hiring a cloud employee who actually resolves the ticket and makes the customer happy. Whoa. And again, such a paradigm shift. And some people are having a really hard time with it. But I do. Yeah. If you're buying a ticketing system, you never wanted a ticket created. I hope, if that's why you bought it, that was stupid. You should have been buying it for the outcome. So big shift from software as a service to outcome as a service.
We are almost at the top of the hour, but I want to throw a question at you, and I don't know, maybe this is too ambiguous, but I'm going to throw it at you anyway, because when you were talking about how a lot of people are struggling with this, how would you how would you describe the mindset that people should be adapting? And I think we've touched on it with the tools versus teammates, but how would you adapt the mindset for a manager or strategist or an owner or an employee just to move forward in this new AI world with the AI employees and what we're experiencing?
Yeah, I do think you said it. It's just that there's that fundamental shift of I'm not using tools, I'm interacting with teammates. And that if you can start to grasp that, you'll interact differently with ChatGPT, which isn't even a full complex AI agent, right? It's more of a basic co-pilot. Don't get me wrong, it's awesome. But it typically is again doing one task, right? It's
Right.
not running then a series of 50 other things, as I would say, like a job is. But if you start that mentality, you treat things different. I have ChatGPT right here, and even that I personify it because I want to start getting used to interacting with a teammate. Because again, I want to get to outcomes. You don't want to just do tasks, record the call, create a ticket, make a dial. Those are not valuable pieces. They're necessary,
Right.
but they're not. So, anyways, I think if you can move in that direction, it will change your persona, your idea, and it'll change the way you behave.
I really like it. And I'm hoping you guys are not working on AI husband over there, or that my wife is watching this show because
Right. That's a different company. That's a different. We're not that one's a little. I mean, we're doing some. Like I said, we've got a bunch of persona cloud employee personas, but the wife is not one of
okay. Uh, Gabe Larsen, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much. Hold on for just a sec after as we end the call here. But thank you also for everybody joining us on Thought Leaders Live, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks again, Gabe.